It is exactly 3 p.m. East African time, right here on A Farmers Media, where we are always about one thing only, telling you the story of the African farmer. And this is the Drive Show with me, Conrad Kibe. I'll be taking you all the way to 5 in the p.m. I don't know how your week has been, but as always, we are not doing well in terms of the coronavirus numbers, in terms of the containment, because as my director can put the picture on your screen to just give you the updates of what the numbers or the numbers that we received in the last 24 hours. And we had positive cases of 1,127 cases registered yesterday out of a possible of 5,393 sample test that was done yesterday, and that's an increase of a 20.9% positive rate. And for the fatalities, the numbers are still rising currently. In the last 24 hours, we had 25 fatalities. And in terms of the recoveries, we are standing at 210. That's 210 people recovered yesterday. And in terms of the total number since last year, we are standing at 123,167 positive cases since March last year. And in terms of deaths, we are currently standing at 2,048. And for the recoveries, we are standing at 90,586. So you can see the cases are yet, they're not as what we would think of, because we are talking about 20.9 percent in terms of positive rate. So remember, the WHO containment rate is 5%. So we are still hitting almost 4 times the percentage of containment that is supposed to be done. So remember, wherever you are, one message to give you: wear your mask, sanitize, and definitely maintain social distance. And in terms of worldwide, the pandemic, the numbers that we are having right now, we are looking at 124.9 million positive cases since last year, and the deaths are 2.7 million total in the whole world. And we are talking about the recoveries of 100.9 million in terms of recovery. So the numbers are still not yet good, because we are talking about active cases right now worldwide, talking about 21.1 million. That is the mild conditions, and for the serious conditions, the numbers are 91,436. These are the number of people who are maybe in very critical conditions, ICU, HDU. So maybe we would want you to maintain and to just take care of yourselves. Remember, we always saying, when you take care of yourself, you're not just taking care of yourself, you're taking care of the people around you, the elderly people, the young people. And everyone is hoping and praying that we'll get out of this pandemic crisis, and just shift toward the post-pandemic, because things are not looking okay. There's a lot of panic out there right now, when especially in Kenya, when we are at the third wave. Things are not okay, as the ministry stated yesterday that the hospitals are full, the ICU beds are full. So just remember, if you don't want to be part of these numbers, then just take care of yourself. But at the same time, if unfortunately you get to get the COVID-19, please, we are urging everyone out here not to stigmatize the people, or the people who have been found positive with this virus. It's something new for everyone, and it's just treatable. We can just maintain it, because you can do it from home. And if it's too much, you can go to hospitals. So let's not stigmatize anyone who has ever been positive, or who is positive at the moment. So let's just maintain everything that all the guidelines and the protocols that we have been given by the government, and of course we shall be doing well. So the numbers, as you can hear, they are not really really good, but if we can do something, and definitely we can do something to make sure that the containment rate is at least below 5%, because every day we are hitting numbers of 1,000 since March started. So we are not really doing well, but as always, take care of yourself, and actually follow all the protocols and the guidelines given by WHO and the MOH right here in the country. And going just shifting towards some agriculture updates. The first one is there's a statement that was issued that has been issued today morning by the CS of, the Ministry of Agriculture, that is Peter Munya. And the statement focuses on their standings and reply from the statement that was issued by the Kenya Tea Development Agency, that is KTDA, and it was issued today. And the statement that was issued by KTDA by their leaders was issued on Monday. So the ministry, being led by the CS, has replied to KTDA. So you can go to their website, go to all their social media platforms. You can get to understand their stand, or just to understand the stand from the ministry's point, and what the three goals that they are focused on their statements. And just bringing the updates a bit closer home. Yesterday, we talked about Hass avocado farming, and I just forgot to give you the number. If in case you are interested uh, to do to just venture into agribusiness, remember we here at A Farmers we give you everything quality, so of high quality. So if you're interested in getting the trees or the seedlings, there's a number that you can call, and that number is 0700 I'll do it again: 0700 That is the number that you can call, and someone will be on the other side of the line and will offer some services to you. So if you're interested in any a tree regarding Hass avocado, you can just call that number. They'll give you the pricing and everything will be smooth. Remember, we just give you quality services, quality products, and definitely even here at A Farmers Media, we just do nothing less than quality. So this week, as I said, on Monday, we'll be focusing on agribusiness. The first day on Monday, we talked about agribusiness as a whole. Yesterday, we talked about one of the ideas that you can have in agribusiness, that is Hass avocado farming. And so today, we'll be focusing on pig farming. This is something that most people have decided to venture into, and mostly people are not doing as as the only source of income. Other people, we have people who are doctors, just in the professional field, but they are still rearing pigs. So today we shall be talking about the origin of pig farming. We shall also be discussing about some of the fun facts we have regarding pig farming. Also, we shall be talking about the factors to consider before you start, or even during the process of pig farming, and definitely some of the ways you can have as you are doing your pig farming. And also we shall be talking about the benefits and the cost of pig farming. So this today will be a very interesting conversation that we shall be having right here in studio. And just to start off with some of just to give you the origin of pig farming, um, just to bring it a bit home in Kenya, and then we shall divert to worldwide. Or maybe let's start with worldwide, because this pig farming started around 9,000 years ago, where it was not really a main focus when people started pig farming. But now, to bring it home, the pig industry started with just the first importation of pigs from Seychelles in the year 1904. Then from there, England started brought in their second importation in the year 1904, the same year, just after a few months, where they brought some of their breeds. And by the year 1917, Kenya had a close of 13,800 kgs of pig meat that was produced. So by the year from 1904 to 1917, Kenya had produced 13,800 kgs of pig meat. So you see, an agribusiness that started way back, almost close to 120 years ago. So it's an agribusiness that people have ventured into, have modified as technology is going is going on. So if you're out there and you want to start a pig farming, remember, we are streaming live on our Facebook page, that is A Farmers with a Z at the end. So if you have a friend who maybe whispered to you that they would want to be in pig farming as an agribusiness, or maybe as a hobby, or just to get some profits and some good yields, call them, text them, or just tell them that A Farmers Media is live on their Facebook page. They can come, have a listen for probably 2 hours, and from there they can make their own decision whether to venture into this farming, or maybe after you've done your research, you'll see it's not maybe profitable, or if it's not very much okay, you can try house farming, and you can wait for tomorrow to see what kind of idea we shall be giving you. But the whole of this week, remember, we are focusing on some of the ideas that we can venture into regarding agribusiness. So, on how some of the fun facts that we have in pig farming. Remember, this is it's a venture that was started way long, so way back long, almost 120 years in the country. So that's we have some of the fun facts. And one thing that actually shocked me is that pork is the most widely consumed meat in the whole world, followed by poultry, then beef. I thought it was the other way around, because probably it's just thinking because it's easier to buy meat than pork. I don't know about you, but I thought beef would be the most consumed meat in the country, but I was wrong. So now you know that pig or pork is the most or widely consumed meat in the world as right now, and followed closely by poultry, then beef, then other kinds of meats. And apart from that, value of trading in pig products around the world once it's just into billions of dollars every year, and Africa enjoys less than 5% of that. So Africa actually, what it brings in terms of the value of pig products is less than 5%. And just to tell you that China is the world largest producer and net importer of pig products, standing at around 45% of the whole or total value in terms of trade of pig products. China takes around 45% of that, and produces 45%, and also at the same time gets 45% of net. So China is the largest producer of pig products. And those are some of the fun facts that we have, or some of the you did you know facts that we had today about pig farming. So we go straight to some of the factors you need to consider before you start pig farming. And so some of the facts that you need to understand, or you need to know before you start pig farming. There are two options which you will be talking into detail. You have two options when you start pig farming. It's either you do it in terms of intensive in, it's either you do it intensively or a free range. So those are two options. We shall be discussing them in length later on. But the factors you need to consider, especially in when you're doing intensive, um, when you're doing intensive pig farming. One, that intensive pig farming is does very well in arid and semi-arid environments. And actually, when you do the intensive pig farming in arid and semi-arid areas, it kind of poses a challenge when it's all about pig rearing. So that's one thing you need to understand, that in semi-arid and arid areas, you need not to do intensive. You can go for free range. I shall be giving you the reasons why you should be doing that. And so the second thing that you need to understand is the cost of food supply shot up because of the reduction, and because the cost of food supply for these pigs has shot up, and that brought about the reduction in food in pig production. And so when, especially because a lot of pigs actually consume maize, when the value or the cost of maize shot up, then there was a reduction in pig production. Either the pork, the bacon, or the sausages, anything that is uh, is pig related or is produced by the pig, actually is reducing because of the cost, or the higher cost of the food supply that the pigs actually consume. So apart from that, you also need to factor in biosecurity. And biosecurity is actually effective when it comes to disease control. Measuring ought to be in place to minimize the spread of diseases in the pigsty. So in the pigsty, and when you are in a piggery unit, you actually need to adhere to the biosecurity, because This is one thing that you need to factor in when you're doing your market research or when you're doing your research, is that anytime you start in pig farming, you need to be a very, very clean person, because they are, the pigs are really prone to diseases, or they might even die if they are not living in a place that is very clean. So you have to adhere to the biosecurities that are put in place, whether it's disease control, whether it's talking about just to minimize the spread of diseases. Because when you do pig farming, these pigs stay together. You put them at almost at the same place, and so you know how pigs are. They are very restless. They move from one place to another. So if you are not keen on having maybe disease, you're not very effective when it comes to disease control, to ensure that you're avoiding a lot of spreading of these diseases and pests, then you will lose the pigs. So, and also, if you don't have that eye of realizing the pigs are not okay, the pigs are, some things are not right, you might lose that. So for you, as you start, as you create that piggery unit, you must understand, you must ensure that you are adhering to the biosecurities that are need to be put in place. And some of these biosecurities are footbaths for the employers. That, remember, pigs need a lot of labor or working on, because you need to wash the piggery units and all these places. So you need to create a footpath, a footbed, sorry, a footbeds for these employers, for the employers that you'll have. Maybe you'll have three or so. So you need to create somewhere they are going to be washing their feet before they get in, and feed, either feed the pigs, or maybe clear the piggery units. So that's one thing that you need to adhere to, the footbaths. Second, strict control of cell phones. We are human beings, and when we get to these piggery units, we get in there with our phones, and that's why they are called personal phones, cell phones. You may forget them anywhere. I have a friend of mine who actually forgets uh, uh, his phone anywhere, whether it's in number tattoo. Right now, maybe in the last like 3 years, he has bought close to 6 phones. He's very forgetful, and if it's not in his pocket, it's done. He'll forget that. He'll forget he was having a phone. So when you have such a person in your piggery unit, it's very easy for him to forget his cell phone in the piggery unit. And all these things, the pigs, as I say, they are very restless. They might tend to tamper with that phone, and things will not be looking good when the pig maybe ianze kuikula ama ianze kutumia hiyo simu, si kutumia literally, but try and uh, try and get to, they will eat anything. The pigs might eat anything. So something, they might eat the phone, and things will not be right with with uh with a pig. You'll have to call a veterinary or something, or maybe they might die, because maybe they may get choked when they are trying to feed on that phone. So that is one thing you need to control. So if the employers are getting into the piggery units, just talk to them, tell them to avoid their cell phones if they are very forgetful, or maybe just make them just put the cell phones into their pockets. The third thing you need to adhere to when it comes to biosecurity is a specific clothing for these employers. And especially during this time of COVID, the clothes that you are wearing outside there, when you're working in town, you just um, you're just with everyone in town. So when you come, it's the right time to get into the piggery units now to feed these pigs. Don't get into that place with the same clothes that you've been wearing when you're in town, or when you're mingling with other people elsewhere. You need to wear a specific type of attire when you're getting into the piggery unit. This is just part of the biosecurity that needs to be in position. So just have a specific clothing for you and the employers as you get in, so that or employees, sorry, as you get into the piggery units. You need to understand, ukishafika nyumbani unataka kuingia kwa shamba ama pale kwa piggery units, just have another type of attire as you get in there. Kama ni kakoti ama ni umevaa tu vizuri, unajua hizi ni nguo za kuingia pale piggery unit, so that when you are able to even control, unaziwasha regularly, and you just know hizi ni nguo za kuingia pale ndani, not just the way you have come from town. Unakuja tu kiwa umeingia, unaweza kuwa umenawa mikono and all these things, umeosha hadi miguu, but when you get there, the clothes ziko na germs, ziko na virus, and that will affect the pigs that are in there. So those are some of the things that you need to adhere to when it comes to biosecurity. Make sure that you have effective disease control. You're controlling your diseases or the diseases very effectively, to avoid this, to actually minimize the spread of diseases among the pigs. And also, you can actually just construct a foot baths for these employees that you're having. Also, we've talked about control of the cell phones inside the piggery unit. We've also talked about specific clothing for the employees that you're having in that piggery unit. The second thing actually to factor in when coming when you're starting a pig farming business, is adequate nutrition. As I said, pigs eat so much. In a day, they can consume 3 to 4 kgs of food products. So you need actually to balance their nutrition. And well balanced nutrition includes minerals. You're talking about magnesium, sodium, copper, calcium, iron, and zinc. Just make sure you factor in these minerals, or the mineral elements in their food. And also, you make sure that you feed these pigs all the time. you know Pigs need to eat frequently. In a day, they're just like any other person. In a day, you need, um, very well, someone who will, a healthy diet for a human being is eating 3 times a day. And so it's the same case as the pigs. For them to have, to live healthy and to give you a healthy product, you have to feed them regularly. And also, just frequently, just feed them and give them a well balanced and nutritional feed. You have to key in, as I said, mineral elements that includes magnesium, sodium, copper, calcium, iron, and zinc. So firstly, we've talked about biosecurity. Now we are at adequate nutrition, which is a well-balanced nutrition. You have to factor in all those minerals, and don't forget also there is water. The pigs need water. So thirdly, talking about cooling facilities, and this is just a did you know that pigs do not have sweat glands. They're not like human beings where we have sweat glands, so we can sweat and remove all those germs and everything, so that also for aeration and all. But for the pigs, they don't have any such kind of a system. So you have to factor in the the cooling facilities for them. So we are talking about maybe water sprinklers. We're talking about, just make sure you have the cooling facilities in the piggery units. Because if you don't do that, then you might suffocate this, you might suffocate the pigs. They might have too much stress and they will die. So before you venture into agribusiness, or this kind of agribusiness, that's pig farming, you must understand that they don't have these sweat glands like any other human being. So you have to factor in the cooling facilities in that piggery unit. So until, for the 3 points, if you have realized, they are very, very crucial. At this point, you have not even started to even rear them to very well. You have not even factored in the talking about manure and all these things. Because the first one, we talked about biosecurity. You have to make sure the diseases you're controlling them effectively. And we have stated how to control this effectively, talking about footbaths, talking about avoiding cell phones in the piggery unit. We're talking about the clothing that you get in with into the piggery unit. And now we also talked about adequate nutrition, and now the cooling facilities. Make sure you factor them, you factor these three things as you start, or as you consider starting a pig farming. The fourth, or the fourth, just before we go to the fourth thing, remember you can have as a cooling facilities, you can have a fan, yeah, to regulate the temperature. And because this one will be actually heavily on support uh, from the farmers. So the farmers, you as a farmer, you as a pig keeper, you as a pig farmer, you need, the pigs actually rely on you, or they depend on you, because they don't have the sweat glands. They depend on you for the cooling, and having a very very good temperature, and just to regulate their temperature, they need your support. Because when we say about fans, the pigs cannot switch on or switch off the fans according to, maybe it depends on the weather, if it's too hot or too cold. They can't do that by themselves. They can't factor in water sprinklers, so they need you physically to be there, know what kind of weather we are having today, and what they need. Is it a fan? Is it water sprinkler? Is it really cold? When it's cold, what do I need? And when it's hot, what do the pigs need? Because if you don't factor in all these things, and you the temperatures are too high or too low, and you have not brought in the cooling facilities, then these pigs will get very stressed, and they will die. That's a fact. So before you get there, it needs a lot of practicality. You need to be there physically to understand. Now you just get to see the weather. You as a human being just get to see the weather and understand today is very very cold, so the pigs need this kind of cooling facilities. Or today is very very hot, they need this kind of facilities. So you need to understand, regulate the temperature by yourself, because they cannot do that for themselves. So they really, really heavily rely on the farmers, especially during hot seasons, for the cooling facility. And the fourth factor that you need to factor in is manual disposable sites. Ideal disposing is a failure to which diseases will cause microorganisms. All right. If you don't dispose um, the manure very well, remember, if you dispose you dispose improperly, that manure will bring about diseases that will cause microorganisms. So when you are disposing this manure, or the sites of the manure, make sure you dispose them properly to avoid the diseases that might cause microorganisms. The fifth point is avoid mixing age groups, and we are talking about the age groups of these pigs. We have a piglet, and we have the bigger, the medium-sized pigs, and now the bigger pigs. We shall be talking about the different types of breeds that we have in pig farming. So this is to minimize bullying among the sows and the boars and the piglets. These are the sows and boars are types of the breeds of pigs. So we have the sows, we have the boars, and also we have the piglets. Piglets are the smaller pigs. So if you mix them together, there'll be a lot of bullying, especially feeding time. The piglets are so small, so they cannot fight with the sows. So it will be very very bad. It will be, there's someone who will lose, just like uh, you know, just like in our society. When, for example, um, I remember so we went for a function in a certain school, and they had no system of, actually, when it comes to feeding, they had no systematic system. So it's God for us all, God for them all, and you just fight for them, for yourself. So at that particular point, you could see when it was time for lunch or time for taking a meal, everyone would run, and it's fast come, fast serve, and it was chaotic. It's the same thing. So you'll see the bigger bodied students would take almost the whole share of the food, and now the form ones and the form twos wouldn't get anything. So it's the same thing. If you mix the sows and the piglets, then it's done. You'll get the piglets are not growing big, they're not being healthy, they're not getting enough water, enough food. But the sows and bows are getting better, and they're actually overfeeding because they won't think like a human being to even actually share. So you need to set up a place for the sows, a place for the bows, but these two you can put together if they're the same age, and then for the piglets by themselves. So when we come back, we shall be talking about some of the ways we need, some of the ways to actually, some of the ways of farming these pigs. So there are very many ways, but we shall be talking about that and much more when you come back after this short break.
Amaranthus, or locally known as terere, is a highly nutritious vegetable that is cultivated and consumed as a leafy vegetable in many parts of the world. It's easy to grow, matures fast, as it takes an incredible shorter period than most traditional crops. There are many species of amaranthus, with some green and others red in color. When growing amaranthus, ensure the soil is well drained and rich in phosphorus, and most importantly, ensure the seeds are well distributed to achieve an even spread when establishing a green amaranthus field. Amaranthus is especially loved for its tender leaves and for their healthy dose of ions, vitamins, and a range of minerals.
As we quickly progress from agriculture to agribusiness, market is key. Join us every Wednesday as we bring to you Market Watch, a show that covers candid discussions regarding the state of the market. Tune in and let's turn our farms into businesses.
Beetroot is a highly nutritious root vegetable. The beetroot is the top proportion of a beet plant. It is one of the many varieties of the genus Beta vulgaris, all of which are mostly grown for their edible taproots and leaves. Beetroot is a root crop that takes approximately 3 to 4 months to mature. Beetroot is a fairly easy crop to grow as long as the soil is well cultivated prior to planting. Beetroots do not enjoy wet, boggy or shady soils. Beetroot can be sown in trays and transplanted when the seedlings have 2 true leaves. Plant in full sun, space seedlings 10 to 15 centimeters apart, and rows 20 centimeters to 30 centimeters apart so they have room to grow. Beetroots are also ideal for containers or raised beds. Beetroots will happily thrive in small areas as long as there's at least 20 centimeters depth of soil. Beetroot has been used not only for food but also for treatment for numerous conditions.
And thank you. Welcome back to A Farmers Media, where we are always about telling you the story of an African farmer. And this is the Drive Show with me, Conrad Kibe. We shall be doing this until 5 in the PM. And just to remind you that we are living in tough times. We are living in times that no one would ever think to ever have. It's been a year right now since COVID hit Kenya and especially Africa. And so we need to take care of ourselves because these numbers that we are seeing every single day, they are now coming from just being numbers to people that we know. Every single day, we're seeing people just sending message of condolences to people that are actually close to us. So let's be very careful. Let's adhere to all protocols being given by WHO and the Ministry of Health. And the three things that they always factor in: wear your mask, sanitize, and make sure you observe social distancing. Wherever you are, if it's a PSV, if it's where you're just mingling with very many people, maintain your distance. Wear your mask, and not just wearing your mask, wear your mask properly. Don't just put it on the chin or just walk around with it. Just wear it, especially right now where everyone has to go back or just continue with business as usual. Let's observe these three things. Sanitize when necessary. If you don't have a sanitizer, make sure you are somewhere there is running water and soap, and clean your hands in the best way. Take a minimum of 2 minutes to clean your hands and you'll be good to go. So let's maintain some of these protocols that have been given by the government, and slowly by slowly you shall be having going to a containment rate of less than 5%. We shall be doing great, and by the time we know it, we shall be in the post COVID era. But for now, the only thing we can do to protect ourselves and the people around us is to just wear your mask properly, maintain social distancing, and also sanitize as much as possible. So today we are talking about pig farming, and this is a business that probably very many people have joined from uh, from all professionals. All Everyone is welcomed. You don't need to go to school to actually start this agribusiness. So it's something that has been there for the last probably 100 years plus in this country. So it's something that we have people or experts to actually talk about this. But for today, for the for only today 2 hours, shall be talking about some of these ways that you can use or you can adhere to before starting or during the pig farming, as you going continuing with your pig farming. And also we shall be talking about the benefits, some of these benefits that you can get when you venture into this agribusiness, and also the cost of starting and all that we shall be factoring in today's show. And just before we went on a break, we were talking about some of the factors to consider. And one the last one that I forgot to mention before we went on a break is for setup. As you're setting up, it's advisable to use the local breeds. We're talking about the sows and bows. So because when you use the local breeds, especially here in Kenya, they have already adapted to you know the uh, the temperatures, the weather and all this. So they'll be good to go. They're not starting from scratch, or they're not going to give you any challenges when you're rearing these pigs. So just go for the local breed that you have around. And also this is they're easily available. If they are locally, they are bred locally, so it means they are very very available. So those are some of the two factors that you need to factor in as you start pig farming. And just to wind up on these factors to consider before you start pig farming, we talked about ensure that you understand the environment that you are in. If you're in arid and semi-arid, please don't it's advisable not to go for the intensive kind of pig farming. Go for the free range kind of farming, right? Or kind of setup. And so, apart from that, when you understand your environment, get to understand the security. And we are talking about biosecurity. And some of these things that you need to factor in when you're doing a biosecurity, as construct a footbath for your for your employees. We also talked about strict control over the cell phones or the personal phones. So make sure that it's always in the pocket, not just moving around and leaving them wherever. We also talked about specific clothing for your employees. And secondly, we also talked about adequate nutrition. So when you have a balanced nutrition for your pigs, they grow healthy, they are good. You factor in minerals such as magnesium, sodium, copper, iron, calcium, and also zinc. So make sure when you're feeding the pigs, you factor in adequate nutrition, or a well balanced nutrition. Thirdly, we talked about cooling facilities, because these pigs do not have sweat glands. They're not just like us, where we have the sweat glands where we can actually just ease everything, and our bodies can cool by themselves. So here we talked about the pigs actually need you as a farmer when it comes to the cooling of their bodies, especially during the hot season, or what other people call the summertime. So during this season, they heavily rely or depend on you as a farmer, or you as a pig farmer, to actually regulate their temperature. We have talked about water sprinklers. You can put them. You can actually put them around the piggery unit. We talked about the fans. So these are some of the fact of some of the cooling facilities you can have inside your piggery unit. We also talked about ideal disposing of the manure. So ensure that you have disposed your manure in a very, very proper way, so that you can actually reduce the diseases and that cause microorganisms. So those are some of the factors that you can consider before you start this type of agri farming. We also talked about avoid mixing the age group just before we went for a break. We talked about the sows, the bows, and the piglets, to avoid bullying, because there is a lot of bullying when you actually mix these age groups together, especially during feeding time. So make sure that all these factors, you've put them in, you've considered them. So when you have that in place, now you go to ways of farming these pigs, or probably it's more or less the same as what you need to consider, but this one is a bit detailed. So we talked about intensive and free range. And we talked about intensive being very, very unsuitable for people in arid and semi-arid environments. So talking about intensive, this is uh, this is also called the barn or hut, BARN or HUT. This is made of humidity and heat resistant materials such as concrete. So the materials that you use in the intensive type of arrangement, they're supposed to be factored in when then you need to factor in a lot of humidity and heat resistant. And for you to have that, make these bigger units out of concrete. All right. And this type of uh, of setup is supposed to be at least 3 meters, where it can accommodate a maximum of 2 pigs. All right. This is during when you're constructing the intensive kind of construction or piggery units. That is called the barn hut or intensive. And you also need to factor in the food area or the feeding area for the pigs. So these two areas are supposed to be different, where they are staying and where they are feeding. And so the area where they're supposed to be, or the feeding area, is supposed to be at least have a size of where they're staying. So we are talking about 1.5 meters. It's supposed to be half the size of where they're sleeping or where they're staying. So separate the feeding area and also the feeding area from where they're supposed to be staying. And this is for easy cleaning, and also, when you just want to walk around, don't walk around where they are feeding, and also where they're staying you need to uh, have proper hygiene. So it's good to separate these two places, where they're staying and where they're feeding. And also where they're staying, you can create a small like a pool bath. They can get in there, or you can, when you're doing your cleaning, you can clean them in that pool bath. Just put them there, because you've talked about making sure that these piggery units are very, very clean. So that's one, when to consider when you building this type of piggery unit. The second one is pasture or free range. This one needs a large area with plenty of grass, soil, and a fence for pigs not to roam so far. So for free range, we're talking about, that's why it's suitable for arid and semi-arid areas, because you need a very, very big, or a large area with plenty of grass, soil, and a big fence. Because now here you are giving the pigs a little bit of freedom, because they need to move around. But now you have to secure this place, because as I told you, pigs are very, very uneasy. They jump up and down. They cannot stay in one position for very long. So they are very uneasy and very irritable. So big, big pigs can actually damage this fence, the fences that you've put in place. So make sure you've put on a very, very strong fence to avoid the pigs roaming around. And when they are very uneasy, irritable, they're very strong, so they can break this fence. So make sure the fence is very, very strong when it comes to free range kind of piggery unit. So housing, still on housing, these are some of the reasons that you need good housing, because they keep the pigs healthy. When you have good housing, and the pigs are able to stay healthy, they are free from harsh weather conditions. Because now, when you talk about intensive kind of piggery unit, we're talking about concrete. you know you factored in the um, a good a good a good unit for the pigs. Either you're doing small scale or large scale, make sure that you have good housing for these pigs, because at the end of it all, you want these pigs to bring money. So if you don't factor in uh, a good houses for these pigs, then they will succumb to harsh weather conditions, and it will not be very good for you as a farmer who probably used a lot of money when starting this kind of business. So make sure um, the housing is very good. Install good ventilation, flow of sufficient fresh air, and most importantly, lights. So if you have good housing for these pigs, you are very you are assured of a very very good and healthy pig or pigs. You are assured of, if you factor in good ventilation, if you also factor in a sufficient fresh air and light, you are assured of a healthy pig and high quality produce at the end of your rearing, or when you are supposed to actually either slaughter this pig, because probably you're doing from a large scale, you're doing small scale, you're selling the products to some of these companies that we have in the country. So make sure you factor in, as you're doing your housing, you're constructing the piggery units that you have, factor in um, good ventilation, factor in also flow of sufficient fresh air and light. So if you have those three things together, you're good to go, and you're very sure of good and healthy pigs as they are staying in the piggery unit. We go now to the third thing, that is feeding, or the second thing. It's feeding. And we talked about pigs feeding a lot. They can eat almost everything. And so when it comes to feeding, most farmers, you'll find that they they will go for their own, creating their own food, because they have already understood what the pigs that they have want. But also you can factor in commercial feeds, or maybe uh, make your own food by your own if the economy is so bad or you don't have that kind of money. And so the basic commercial feed that we have is oat, you know grain, maize, wheat, rice, sorghum, or any other millet. So those are some of the basic commercial feed that the pigs feed on. Any kind of millet that you have, the sorghum, the rice, oats, wheat, maize, any other. Those are some of the very, very basic commercial feeds that the pigs do intake. And also you can factor in proteins, some supplements, or some protein supplements. And this is we have oil cakes, fish meal, uh, and meat meal. Those are some of the protein supplementaries that you can factor in when you're doing your feeding to your pigs. We've talked about oil cakes, fish meal, and meat meal. And still, in the feeding, remember we talked about adequate or well balanced nutrition. So as you're doing as you're giving the pigs supplement proteins, and also you're feeding them on oat, grain, maize, and all the other millets, factor in clean and fresh water. Not just any other water, but clean and fresh water. This will help in the growth of the pigs. So when it comes to feeding, make sure it's well balanced nutrition. Still, we talked about factoring the minerals. Talked about iron, zinc, and all other minerals. So factor in everything. Have let the pigs feed on well balanced nutrition. All right. So the other thing comes to breeding, and a very interesting thing about breeding, or when it comes to breeding of the pigs, they are very rich. The 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 breeding age is very fast for the pigs, especially for bows and sows. They become suitable for breeding within 8 months of age. As long as they are 8 months old, they are good for breeding. So you see, that's why most of the farmers that we have will go for this kind of agribusiness, because the aging factor, or the breeding age for the pigs is very, very fast. Within 8 months, you're good to go. So also, another thing that, or another reason why people or farmers do pig farming is that their gestation period is not more than 115 days. Those are approximately 3 to 4 months. And in this 3 to 4 months, we have this breed called the sow, can give birth twice a year. And in one, uh, at every time they, in we have talked about giving birth twice a year, and once they can give birth to 8 to 12 piglets, just once. And in just 1 year, their gestation period is close to 4 months. So in a year, they can have they can give birth twice. And you're talking about in one in in one period, they are giving birth to close to 8 to 12 piglets. So in 1 year, you are very sure of one sow giving you a maximum of 24 piglets. So you can see why some of the farmers will actually incline to doing this kind of agribusiness. And also, apart from the breeding, we talk about now the health and diseases. And this is where you factor in professionals when it comes to health and diseases, because pigs can have other symptoms, or maybe can have diseases that you probably wouldn't know, but you need to factor in a professional when it comes to the health and the health of the pigs. So here you factor in very professional vets will come and diagnose uh, um, anything that you will notice with your naked eye. And they probably, at times, they will have weird symptoms, like the pig has a low appetite, and you know how much a pig can eat. So this day, you come in, you get to the piggery unit, you realize this one pig or two pigs um, have low appetite. Or if not so, when the in their waist, it's kind of like their diarrhea. So there's diarrhea when they are getting rid of their waste. So some of the weird symptoms that a sick pig will have is low appetite. So that one is very easy to notice, because pigs eat too much, or so much. The second one is diarrhea. The third one is eye discharge. You'll see, or you find some weird discharge coming out from their eye. Third one, excessive coughing. Fine, that one is not normal coughing for any pig. So those are some of the symptoms that you might actually let a professional vet come in to check and diagnose what's wrong with your pigs. The other one is dry skin. If your pigs or your pig has a very dry skin. Also, we have excessive long hair. And lastly, we have backbone. The backbone is showing. When you find the pig has a lot of fat. So when it gets to a point where the backbone is actually showing, then it means there's a problem. And it's a problem that needs to be solved. So those are some of the weird symptoms that a sick pig might have. And so you need, as a pig farmer, you need to call in a professional vet to actually assist you and diagnose, to get to the root cause of all these symptoms. And animals that are on just this is a very, very good thing to mention, that animals that are antibiotic, all right, on medication from a period of 21 to 45 days, they take so long to actually the antibiotics in the body of a pig take so long to dissolve, and so they are not healthy for human being consumption. So if you have a sick pig or pigs, and you have, or they are on medication, and you have given them antibiotics or any kind of medicine that can take long, like antibiotics take 21 to 45 days to actually dissolve in their bodies. So you are highly advised not to slaughter that pig. So if you're out there, you have your pig, you've actually diagnosed some of the diseases that this pig has. The vet has already given you antibiotics, and now you are ready to get to the market and slaughter these pigs. They have come of age to be slaughtered, but then you realize they are very sick, so you need to postpone taking them to the market, because now these antibiotics that the pigs are uh, have taken take so long to dissolve. So we are talking about, if for example your pigs they have been diagnosed and the disease has been found, and so they are on meds, they have taken the antibiotic today, you need to wait at least 45 days to be on the safe side, especially if you're doing large scale farming. At least wait for 45 days for these antibiotics, which take time to digest in the pigs, and then now you can go ahead and slaughter these pigs. So let's not be greedy out there. Let's not be very impatient. Remember, if there's a trend that you're seeing in agribusiness, one virtue that or value that is being seen widely, is the virtue of patience. If you don't have patience, then you will not survive in this business of agriculture or agribusiness. Yesterday we talked about Hass avocado farming having 3 to 4 years. Now we are talking about pigs which have are sick. The antibiotics that you're giving them taking a very, very long time to dissolve in the body. So if you're not careful, then we shall be having a very, very, you shall have actually, and especially if you're doing the long, or actually you're doing the large scale farming of these pigs and you're not patient enough, you'll have hurt so many people along the way. You'll hurt the consumer. You'll be hurting now where the consumer gets these products. So let's be careful. Let's adhere to all these ways. So before we take a break, just highlight them. Talked about knowing where the environment is. If you're in arid and semi-arid area, remember it's all about the piggery unit should be free range, and for the rest you can do intensive, that is barn or hut. But for arid and semi-arid area is pasture or free range. And when it comes to housing, make sure you factored in good ventilation, flow of sufficient fresh air and lights. And definitely when it comes to feeding, you can either buy your own, just mix your own food, or maybe you can go for commercial feeds. Talking about breeding, some of the reasons why this pig farming is good, because their gestation period is just less than 4 months. Talking about their breeding age is very faster, actually is very fast, and just all about their gestation period, having to give birth twice a year for the sow kind of breed. And also for the health and diseases, you factor in professional advice, or just bring in a professional vet. So when you come back, we shall be talking about the benefits of having such kind of breed, and definitely why you should, or some of the benefits that actually lure people to do this kind of agribusiness. All that when we come back after this short break.
Cauliflower is a cruciferous vegetable that is naturally high in fiber and B vitamins. Cauliflowers are annual plants that reach about 0.5 meters and bear large rounded leaves. As desired for food, the terminal cluster forms a firm succulent cud or head that is in form of a cluster of flowers. Cauliflowers do well in fertile well-drained soils that are rich in organic matter. Just like other plants, cauliflowers are also affected by different kinds of pests and diseases which can hinder its growth, including unfavorable climate and growing conditions.
The many problems you will see in cauliflowers, and this one just one of them. You can see how the problem is. It's called riciness. You can see it's living in a chana, that is, yeah? Living each other. As you always say. But this one is usually caused by low temperatures. Yes. Low temperatures. Low temperatures during planting leads to this problem. So you have to make sure during planting you have favorable temperatures for your crops. Always talk to your agronomist when you plant, so you can know when to plant what and what works when. Temperature will depend on your area, the area you are in. Because I can't tell you we are in Nyandarua, I want to grow this, and you are in somewhere in in coast, it's too hot. Yes, so that will depend also in your locality. Yes, and also if you are in those climates where it always changes, so you have to know when is the cold season. In cold season you can't do this because of A, B and C. And if it's too hot, you can do A, B and C. So always, that's why I'll just have an agronomist. Will guide you through it. Yes. And also do your market research and know what works where before you grow something as a farmer. Don't just do guesswork. There's a lot of pests that attack cauliflower. One, the most notorious one is aphids. Aphids will circle your leaves. And one thing you'll know, there's aphids on your leaves. They're always curling. Yes? They will eat, or they will suck the sap out of the leaf. And now, when they are too weak, they start curling. They curl inwards. So that's how you'll know you have aphid attack on your farm. Yes. And now what you can do to control aphids on your farm is always keep them in check. By spraying, there's always a chemical solutions to it. There's biological, and then there's IPM. Yes. The perfect head, I'll say it looks like this one. Look at this. It's perfectly round, and it doesn't have any spots on it, and it's intact. That's what makes a perfect head, and is a good size, good market size. Not too small, not too big, not overgrown, just perfect. Yes.
Celery is a marshland plant that comes from the same family as carrots and parsley. It has long, firm and pale green fibrous stalks and grows in bunches of approximately 8 to 10 centimeters. The stalks taper into leaves at the top. When planting celery, it's best to ensure that the soil is enriched with compost and with a soil pH of between 5.8 to 6.8. It is also important for celery to grow in moisture-retentive soil. Lastly but not the least, select a site that receives full and direct sunlight. Celery needs about 130 to 140 days to mature between seedling and harvest. Growing celery is generally considered to be an ultimate vegetable gardening challenge. It's easy to grow, but has very specific needs.
And yes, it's exactly 12 minutes past 4 p.m. We're still continuing right here on A Farmers Media, where we are always about one thing only, telling the story of an African farmer. And this is the Drive Show with me, Conrad Kibe. I've been taking you through from 3 p.m. and now we are about to conclude. Na unajua katika ile harakati ya kumaliza tulisema from yesterday be having a very very interesting segment, and this is the time for that segment katika kipindi cha Lala Salama. And today, if my director can project the screen on the screen, the pan of the day, and today we have a very interesting pan. If you are a beef farmer, remember we said about beef being the third most consumed kind of meat in the world, and today's pan is talking about what did the farmer say when he lost one of his cows, and he answered, what a mistake. So if you have a high sense of humor, you'll get that. The point is home, ausio. So for all the beef farmers, I know you have gotten that palm, because it says, what did the farmer say when he lost one of his cows? What a mistake. Yes, so always on our third and katika kipindi cha Lala Salama, we shall be having the pan of the day. So if you didn't get the pan of the day yesterday, you can go to our YouTube page at A Farmers Media, and also our Facebook page, that is A Farmers with a Z at the end, and you'll find the pan of the day for yesterday. So until tomorrow, when we shall be having another pan of the day, that's it for now. And so as we conclude on pig farming in Kenya, on in the world, we've talked about the ways of which you can do a pig farming, on what the on some of the factors you need to consider when you're doing pig farming. Talked about the origin of pig farming, and now we are into the benefits of pig farming. And the first one that we have is, pigs grow faster than livestock animals. And we have seen that. We have seen the gestation period, we have seen the breeding period. Talking about 8 months old, you're good to go. It's good for the pig to breed. So that's one. These are some of the factors that you as a farmer, or you as an interested farmer, wants to start or venture into agribusiness, that is just pig farming. These are some of the benefits you will have researched on before you venture into this kind of agribusiness. So, one, we've said pigs grow faster than livestock animals. The second one, we are talking about uh, reproduction system takes less time. You see, the gestation period is less than 115 days. That's less than 4 months. And you have your 8 to 10 piglets at once in less than 4 months. That's it. So in a year, you have twice that number. So we are talking about in a year having 24 piglets. If you bring two sows together, having the gestation period being less than 4 months, in 1 year you have 24 piglets and you're good to go. So these are some of the benefits that people would actually want to venture into agribusiness. The second one, we talked about um, it when you start in this kind of agribusiness, you can start with little investments, very very small investments. We shall be coming to the costs and all that, but you will realize you can actually start with very very small amount of money and you're good to go, as long as you factor in all those factors that you talked about when you started the show, and get your budget right and all other things. You're good to go with, as long as a very 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 few coins or very very few notes to start with this kind of agribusiness. The other one we've talked about, the gestation period, talking about 115 days. That is less than 4 months. You're good to go. So that's another advantage or another benefit that people will see before they consider venturing into pig farming. The other one, we're talking about good return of investments. When you have you've had a good you've factored in good housing for these pigs, you know, you've also made sure that you have biosecurity that is in place. You have the footbaths. You are not getting into the piggery unit with phones. You know, you have everything factored in. You have controlled the diseases. You've made sure you have a professional vet on speed dial in case of anything. You've factored in everything. You've considered all these factors. There is a good return on your investments. The other benefit is there is a huge demand in the market. Right now, if you walk into any supermarket and to the fruit section, you will it's very rare to find no pig product. Talking about sausages, talking about bacon, all these things. If you're from County 034, as you pass on your way to this Namanga Road, on your way to Vanilla, or just before you get to stage, there's a point after Eastmart. There are a lot of stalls there of the, I think it's about the Pork City and all that. That's already a market of pig products. We're talking about pork, and now you're from the pork city that is just near Eastmart. You have one of the products that is pork. You now just get into that supermarket that is nearby. You'll get now the other kind of pig products. We're talking about sausages, talking about bacon, and all of you. So you get there's a huge demand in the market. So if you've considered all the factors right, you know, and you're getting high quality products, you may find yourself getting endorsements or tenders from Farmers Choice or other kind of companies that do take big produce big pig produces from farmers. So this will happen because there's a huge demand out there. We talked about knowing your target audience. Where are you targeting? You're targeting the locality of where you've done your rearing. You'll get a market there. Now, the good thing about pig farming doesn't lack a market. You don't really need to target big markets like globally or regionally. You can do it locally na unakuwa champe hapo tu kwenu. You become the only person who can give very, very good pork. You know, you are known for pork. Everyone who comes to that town knows when you go to that particular joint, they have the best pork. So the good thing about pig farming, you don't have to target the largest, audience. You can target a very small audience, especially I don't know if you've gone to, for example, now you're talking about that place along Namanga Road. For all the people who go to Tanzania by road, or maybe they are using they are on your way to Kajiado. We have people who go to Namanga for road trips. If that place is actually has good pork, everyone who uses Namanga Road, we know there's a particular joint. Then when you go there and you just take 1 kg of pork, you're good to go until where you're going, whether it's Namanga to Tanzania, all those places. You'll that person has not targeted uh, globally. He's not selling out of the country. That person is just selling in his location. That is Kitengela. But everyone who is passing there is a targeted audience. So the good thing about this, has a huge market. It's everywhere, so you don't have to actually get challenged on when or whether or on which type of audience you can target. You can target any kind of audience, locally, nationally, regionally, globally, as long as you've targeted a certain type of audience, you will get a market because the market is all over. There's an advantage having pork being the largest consumed type of meat in the world. Then surely that goes without saying that this one has a huge market everywhere, everywhere in the country. Maybe apart from any country that is any Islamic country, that's where probably you may not have a very good market or even a market to just say. And the other one is a source of employment. Talking about people who, do pork large scale. When you're doing pork large scale, that really means that for you, you have to have labor. You'll have people who are working for you. You're having people who are working in the piggery unit. You're talking about feeding the pigs, talking about giving them water, washing them, making sure there are no diseases, controlling everything in the piggery unit because you have done it large scale. So by virtue of doing that, you're creating employment for people out there, especially right now during COVID. It's hard. People have lost their jobs, you know, and this is something that, yes, someone can learn through an apprenticeship. You don't need to go to school to learn on how to feed pigs. Those young people who are out there, probably they are suffering. They have nothing to do. They are fresh out of campus. They don't have anything else to do. The job market is not favorable for what they studied. They're just at home, very idle, doing nothing. You can actually employ that young man. Just teach them, this is the way to do. This is the way to do it. This is how you feed pigs. This is how you wash pigs. This is how you notice that a pig is not okay. So if you teach young people, especially young people, these things, and they understand that mchagua jembe si mkulima, so they don't need to actually say, no, now this one is a lot of work, I never studied for this, sijui I did law, I did what kind of a prestigious course, now I cannot. Now what will I tell my people, what will I tell my friends that now I'm a big farmer, and all these kind of things. You can teach the young people, and by the virtue of doing that, you're creating, or you are a source of employment. You don't need, these young people now will stop complaining about the government not creating jobs and all that. You are a source of employment. And so, in line with the source of employment, this has helped. The other benefit of pig farming has helped very many professionals. As I said when we started the show, that anyone, pig farming is not limited to any kind of profession. It doesn't necessarily mean that because you are a lawyer, you are a doctor, you are a business person, you cannot keep pigs. Again, we factor in COVID-19. If there's something that I will keep on repeating, that 2020 taught us when we were now deep into COVID-19, or when we were starting COVID-19, is that we learned that having more than one source of income right now is a necessity. Si bahati kama kitambo ati sasa huyu anafanyanga kazi mingi, mara ana earn from here, anafanya hivi, you're a farmer. We are living at times where people are actually proud of saying, when they're introducing themselves, and they're like, I am so and so, and I'm a farmer, period. you know it's high, we are now shifting to where, if you tell a person I am a farmer, they are like, okay, what else do you do apart from farming? We are at a point where people are doing farming full time. We are not ashamed of just saying your name and your profession, being, or occupation being, a farmer. And so that at the same time means, if you're doing, or you engage in another occupation, you're not limited to doing not doing pig farming. You can actually multitask, especially during COVID. Now you are a businessman, the business is not really doing well. Probably you're into matatus, you have your small retail shop, or maybe a wholesale shop. You're just into business. But then again, you decide now, because you are living in times where having more than one income is necessary, because of the economic hardship that we are having currently in the world, and also as a country, I may venture into pig farming. So that's a benefit, you know. And so when you are in the other profession, you can now, that's when now you factor the young people, teach them these things. So when you're doing your small business that you have out, you can have these young people, because you are a source of employment. So you've employed them, they are able to do one, two, three things. They are able to take care of these pigs. So it's not limited to any profession. You can multitask, and you know do pig farming at the same time you are doing your other side hustle. Or probably you can have pig farming as a side hustle, and it has helped a lot of people. You'll get out here, hear stories from people telling you, I'm in a certain high institution, the fees is very expensive, but you know what, my parents have do keep pigs, and that's where my school fees comes from. Because the profession that you're doing, or the occupation that you are into, is not really getting the amount of money that can pay for you child's school fees. But now when you keep pigs, at the end, the source, or the income that you get from the pigs produce, can actually take your school to your son to school, or your daughter to school. So you will get to hear stories from outside, and they will tell you this is what actually happens. Before we take a short break, I know people who are waiting to get to the cost of actually just keeping pigs. Very fast, I would like to talk about the one thing. When you start, it's highly advisable to get two pregnant or sows, or just even one. And a cost of just two, or one, or actually one, is 30 to 50,000. When you get a pregnant sow, remember we talked about a sow having in one time of getting actually giving birth, they give birth to from 8 to 12 pigs or piglets. And remember, the breeding process, or the breeding time of these piglets, is actually 8 months. So in 8 months, you're good to go just with one pregnant sow. And the average of food that is taken by one pig a day is 3 to 4 kilos. And you're talking about around probably 120 kgs per month. So in 9 months, the feeding of these two souls that you have is probably 16 to 20,000. So that is the feeding, the amount of money that you'll use when it comes to feeding. So it's up to you if it's actually not too much, or if it's too much. You remember what we talked about yesterday, not bringing burning the bridges. You can get the loans from circles, from friends. Just make sure, if you want to be into the agribusiness, be very intentional, do it right, do it in the right way, follow all these steps, the guidelines. And now if you have 50,000 or from 50,000 upwards, you are able to have your piggery unit, you have your pigs, and you're ready to go. And remember, we talked about good returns of investments. So when you invest well, you'll get good returns. So when we come back, we'll be telling you more of the traffic updates for those who are traveling, for those who have been watching on our Facebook live stream, that is A Farmers with a Z. Maybe wako mahali kwa traffic, wacha tutawajulisha what is happening in our roads. See you then. Welcome back. Sorry for that. Welcome back to A Farmers Media, where we are always about one thing only, telling the story of the African farmer. And this is the Drive Show. You have been with me, Conrad Kibe, from 3 p.m. And we are about to wind up. But if you're on transit, whether from work to work or all the other places, remember, it's good to know what is happening on the roads. Na kama unatumia Mombasa Road from Syokimau, it's very very smooth all the way to Imara Daima. Hapo ndio maneno inaanza, and from there we have Imara Daima kumejaa kujaa, it's packed there. And as you continue with Mombasa Road, unafika pale until South Sea, also not looking so well, until up about the roundabout near West, Nairobi West, not looking so good on your way to Langata Road. But from Langata Road unaweza pita vizuri. But just to tell you, if you're using Mombasa Road na unataka kufika side za Langata Road, please, it's advisable that you use the southern bypass. Watu wangu wa Westlands, it's not looking so good pale Chiromo all the way to Westlands kupanda hivyo Parklands, not looking so good. So if you're on transit and you need to beat traffic, this is the place to be. We'll be telling you some of this njia unaweza pitia. Tunaongea kuhusu watu wa Embakasi, not so bad right now, but najua in a few hours kutakuwa kumejaa pale karibu na Embakasi on your way to Jomo Kenyatta when you're using that bypass. So wherever you are, make sure you take care of yourselves on the road and also off the roads. If you're using public service vehicles, make sure you keep your social distance, wear your mask, sanitize, because you're in a public service vehicle. It's maybe probably has 33 passengers, so take care of the other 32. So wear your mask, sanitize before you board that vehicle, and make sure you keep your distance. I know right now, as we said last week, people are very arrogant, but I hope the numbers we had last week and the numbers that we're having this week are a wake-up call to everyone in the transport sector. And at the same time, you're talking about coronavirus. You're out there, maybe you want to have one for the road, you just want to enjoy yourself katikati ya wiki, and as you celebrate towards the end of the month, remember, curfew is at 10 p.m. Curfew is at 10 p.m. So if you're out there, you want to just enjoy yourself, or maybe you're on a transit and you're very late, remember curfew is at 10 p.m. Munajua ambacho kilifanyika on Sunday and Friday? We had some people right now, they are working. Maybe you are jobless, lakini ulikuwa umeenda kujienjoy. Right now you're working because the NMS is not joking. So if you're caught outside by 10 p.m. or after 10 p.m. and you're jobless, trust you me, utakuwa na kazi, because every day from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. utakuwa unafagia Mudhurwa, Nairobi City, Nairobi River, all these places. I know in the next 1 or 2 weeks the culprits watakuwa wametutengenezea in Nairobi na itakuwa inakaa poa. So don't be part of that. I've already told you, by 10 p.m. kuwa nyumbani, tulia, kesho pia ni siku, au sio? Because Grace Muthoni will be needing you right here at 8 in the morning. So take care of yourselves. Tukutane hapa. She'll be here giving you an amazing show from 8 to 10 a.m. And also, I also need you tomorrow, jameni, at the 3 p.m. Also need you here so that we can continue with this an amazing discussion of agribusiness. So until tomorrow, be kind to one another, take care of yourselves. Tukutane kesho, Mungu akisema ndio, au sio?